Morning, we'll be traversing cyberspace in a bold effort to break new ground. Congratulate Professor Buxton and his team for having the courage to take this on. We've got people from as far as Thursday Island. Hello Francis and Fiona from Mildura, who I know uses Twitter. And Mark is up in Cairns. And Wadad, Northern Territory. Take on some big and complex questions. Things like, what will schooling and education look like in the 21st century for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander pupils? What does this mean for teacher preparation? And what does indigenisation of school mean in this context? Some very big and profound and interesting questions. Please make welcome to the stage Professor Rigney.
Colleagues, practitioners, young teachers who are here with us, early career teachers I should say, and more importantly, people in cyberspace out there, welcome. The first thing that I want to raise is that Australia must pick up the pace on reform in Indigenous education, and that the school reform has been agonisingly slow. And I think that what we're facing at the moment is we're trying to fix problems that should have been fixed 3 decades ago. And this inhibits us to be able to focus on the key challenges that are on the horizon. We're still back trying to fix numeracy and literacy that should have been fixed 3 decades ago. But in focusing on closing the gap, which is a 3-decade-old problem, inhibits us, I would argue, in order to try and project try and solve as Indigenous educators what's going to happen in the future. So I'm suggesting that the reform of Indigenous education has not kept pace with the ever-changing Indigenous condition. And that this reform has put the brakes on growth and has put the brakes on us solving problems that are on the horizon, that are right now, that we're going to, our kids are going to face in the next 10 years. So that's my first point. Reform must pick up pace with the current changing conditions of Indigenous education. The second point is that digital revolution is here. And my argument today will be to try and convince you with all the eloquence that I can muster that curriculum and pedagogical reform and shift is fundamental for the next generation. And that this isn't just about national curriculum. That I'm arguing in order for us to move forward, we need another curriculum and pedagogical reform shift. And then lastly, that change poses challenges and opportunities. What is Indigenous education? I'm going to do it by 2 slides. This is what we've been doing for the last 3 decades. This is the map that most Australians have, and this is what we're trying to teach, the different knowledge systems. So this map comes with a knowledge system that we understand, they're both important. This map is really, and the knowledge system that accompanies that is important for Aboriginal students. But so is this map for all Australians. And the numeracies and literacies that comes with this map is equally as important that of the numeracy and literacies that belong to this map. And at the moment, we're trying to fit into our schools both of these maps. What classrooms are like across the world. And I want you to have a look at not necessarily the individuals, but what's around these things. These are still classrooms. Right? These are still people getting up out of bed in the morning and wanting to learn, no matter where they are. This is a programmed rest period in Korea. But what you're seeing here is classrooms of all different shapes and sizes, uniforms in all different shapes and sizes. These classrooms are in, some of them are in war-torn areas where teachers have to get up early in the morning and dodge mines, dodge bullets, and still have the capacity to be able to teach. And so are the children. So what we're seeing here is that children and staff and teachers and administrators and curriculum writers, but the ultimate goal is our love of learning and our high value of placing on learning and empowering our students to go on to better things. And that's worth getting out of bed and dodging lines. Between 1960 and 2000, Indigenising schools had different challenges purposes and demands. What we achieved during this particular period was Aboriginal education, teachers' curriculum leadership. We grew those. Key aspects during this period was access, equity, and equal opportunity. What we are at the moment is, during that particular time, we very much invested into Aboriginal studies as a silo effect, an Aboriginal unit that's a core out of the 8 strands. But now we're moving into more of a perspectivism. Perspectivism is that we have Aboriginal perspectives across the curriculum. Started around about the late 80s, started to move into the 90s, and now we have at the university level that dictates what's in teacher education. That is, we have the Brent Review advocating for perspectives. So Aboriginal perspectives to be right across the entire areas of the university and the school. And the national curriculum, cross-cultural, cross-curriculum priorities attest to this. Upon Indigenous communities have been, are now, right now, and some of our communities have missed the boat. So, for instance, if you're not on the boat at the moment working out how to fix climate change, particularly in low-lying countries, low-lying areas, you're in some serious issues. If you don't know Facebook, and you don't know how to do Twitter, and you don't know digital literacy, you will be imperiled. So, in the next iteration of indigenising the school, we need to start to seriously consider our disciplines that we haven't gained much access to: science, computer science, engineering, professions, and mathematics. And that these issues will be right on the front door of some of my model. Why is change needed? Well, I would argue that indigenising the school for the last 3 decades has been catch-up, and the reform has been way too slow. That we've been trying to achieve parity, and that this is reactive. It is needed. I'm not arguing that it's not needed. It is definitely needed. However, I think that the balance between an Aboriginal determined future and the academy has been lost, and we need to re-establish it. That Aboriginal communities have needs and have challenges that they need to face and fix. I think that indigenising the school for the horizon has to be proactive to the wicked problems, and it has to build on the momentum of the past 3 decades, and has to build a modern, digital-ready 21st Indigenous education. We're going to have to produce Aboriginal leaders able to guide the next generation through the wicked problems and look at 21st century digital literacies and economies. The first challenge is to get them through school. The second challenge also is to have our scientists who can begin to theorise some of these issues.
There's a really great conversation occurring online. Can you pick up some milk and bread on the way home? That's probably a question for me.
The ability to share across countries using the internet. Skype's free. I think what's missing at the moment is an internal or an external structure that can upload to the digital world. What we can do is get a series of clusters of like-minded people into a room and Skype and talk to others across the globe. In places of Canada, for instance in British Columbia, are working on digital formats where they connect communities around what they call clusters, or what they, in terms of the postgraduate, so they have what they call these pods. What does Aboriginal education in the 21st century look like? So this is where we go forward. What we don't want is a whole, what Chris has eloquently said, and that is that there is a real fear of change. And some of us, in some of our own families, around what these technologies look like, what they would bring, what hazards they pose, but they do pose hazards. But they also bring opportunities. There's hope. Building the educational revolution did give our schools 16.2 billion. There is the national curriculum. The Closing the Gap campaign did have some traction on early childhood. We did win some aspects there. National Broadband Network, 43 bill. We're hoping that we can solve some of those issues of tyranny of distance. To address this new way going forward, I'm suggesting that there needs to be a curriculum pedagogical reform agenda. Had one in terms of the national curriculum, and some may say we've already had one, we're not going to get another one in the next 100 years. But in order to address some of the 21st century problems that I've suggested, these wicked problems, here is what I would call 10 big questions that Indigenous curriculum would need to do in order to address the wicked problems. So here they are. And I think that a curriculum reform, pedagogy reform agenda is fundamental in order to be immune to at least address some of these wicked challenges.
Check online and say hello to everybody again. We've got a question from someone.
You can prepare kids with digital education quite simply. That is that we hear quite a bit that Aboriginal communities are quite poor and we don't have access to online services at home. There's the library. Libraries are for free. There is also schools that have digital infrastructure inside it. And as I get to some of the digital stats in a minute, I'm also finding that mobile is key. Now I'm going to finish off with one of the wicked challenges, and that's the digital revolution, e-commerce, and a whole range of issues. So here are the new wave of numeracy and literacy vocabularies that our community will have to involve. I want to move from that to go, here is the numeracy, the sophisticated numeracies that our community should have in their vocabularies. Firstly, the greatest digital divide is in remote communities, particularly in Northern Territory. The second biggest digital divide across Australia is on the outer suburbs of major capital cities. It's where most of most Aboriginal families have broadband, which means fantastic opportunities for us as educators, that they can access at a broadband width speed that can look at what we've got at schools. And what type of use of device are they using? It is really clear. I've come to you to tell you this one clear fact from this research. Mobile and the smartphones. There are people who are accessing the internet by one device, and that is the mobile phone, which means that there is not a desktop. You can't do homework on a mobile phone. We have Oxford Professor Martin Westfield here, and he's basically suggesting that young people in the 21st century will spend their adult lives using technology-driven, diverse, rapidly changing world. And he would say that this world is going to be different, far different from their teachers. He argues, and so do I, that IT is no replacement for the teacher, that we won't be able to communicate with other schools abroad, and that problem-solving, communication, new jobs are really, really important. He says, despite the best efforts of educators, schools are becoming dangerously obsolete. He suggests that there's 7 survival skills that you need. I'm not going to go through them, but they mirror some of the classrooms that we've got, but they also sadly. Helm says that for every day that a kid doesn't have click and drag literacy, every day that a parent doesn't have click and drag literacies, that there's this digital lag, and a digital lag is a knowledge lag, or a digital divide is a knowledge divide. So every minute that a child does not have click and drag literacies, he or she is falling further and further and further behind. What can I do as a teacher and a parent? Well, kids love challenges, and I want to conclude here that schools and universities are the right places for that challenge. And they're already ahead of us, as you know, around technology. We need new mechanisms online and in face-to-face. The more and more we go forward for the 21st century, don't be tempted with quick fixes that the digital will solve with the need for you to consult with the community by just send an email. It's not going to happen. And don't become a prisoner of despair is my philosophy, is that every problem has a solution. I don't profess to have the answers, but I'm charting some of the challenges. I'm so honoured to be here, and I wish you well in your career. We're in an age now where you don't have to leave your community, but you could run an efficient business online. Absolutely. And I think that this is a classic case, is that you can shop anywhere in the country you like, as long as you can afford the delivery charges. So like no other time in history, will it bring us a grand opportunity to build more employment and business ownership.
I think I can see you all there. You had a great time. hoping they're giving me a thumbs up or something like that online. It's been fantastic that you've been able to join us, and a really great conversation. Professor Rigney, I want to just wrap things up by saying thank you very much for posing some really big questions. Yesterday we had some really profound questions about the here and now, and it's wonderful that you've been able to take us into the future, not only into the future, but across cyberspace as well.